Welcome to Bonehead. Welcome to Bonehead. This special episode, we have Kane Hodder. Now, this is...
Let's address the elephant in the room. The fact that there's
is that
only
a fat joke?
No, it's the fact that there's only two of us.
There's only two of us
because
James is dead.
And as you can see, I'm wearing my sunglasses in memory of James Thomas, who has passed away. He died the way he lived.
On top of a hooker.
Oh, I was gonna
doing blow.
No. Let's be serious. We know how he really passed away, with his head stuck in a generic tub of vanilla ice cream from Kroger's.
That's way better than what I was going to say. He died the way he lived, with his head stuck up his ass.
We kept telling him to use a spoon. He's like, "Nah, why are you doing it in my mouth?"
It's usually the voice you use for me.
I know. But James isn't here, and James can't punch me.
For people who don't often listen or watch us, Chad often makes fat jokes about me if you don't know me outside. Because Chad used to be fat.
I still am. But anyway.
A little tubby. So anyway, we have a special guest star, Kane Hodder. Now, Chad wasn't with us when we did this interview with Kane because he was like, I want to take my family to Disney World because I'm a good dad. And that's more important than Bonehead. Bonehead is second place to my children, who are going to hate you no matter what.
Should I point out that the mouse ears were delicious?
No, because you would be a dick. Oh, wait, go ahead.
Yeah, they were delicious and creamy and sweet, and they melted in my mouth.
Are you talking about ice cream still? So anyway, your kids are going to hate you no matter what.
Yes.
What did you have to prove?
I at least had to try.
Look at Phil's kids. Our friend Phil Spillman.
Oh, no.
I hope he's listening or watching this right now. But anyway, it's a little bit different of an episode because we had to break it up. James and I were there. As I mentioned, Chad's a total loser and wasn't there for the opening of the premiere of the movie at Scarefest. But James and I were, and we got to do a quick 10-15 minutes Q&A with Kane Hodder. And then, later on in the weekend, Chad found his way back home. And we got to do another 40 minutes.
It was like a less fantastic version of Homeward Bound.
Another 30 or 40 minutes with the director and the producer of the movie. The movie was called To Hell and Back. And actually, you really should check it out. You should check it out if you're into movies because it's fascinating. The stunt work, the different stories, the different people who are in movies, who are there, who were in the movie, talking about that. It's also fascinating just as a human interest tale. Mm-hmm. This is usually where James chimes in and says something.
Back in the Scarlet Letter... They talked about
Poe. Edgar Allan Poe.
I don't know why we want to talk. He hates him so much.
Harlan Ellison.
God,
he thinks Harlan Ellison is a hack. Is a total hack. Anyway, so...
And Henry David Thoreau did not know a damn thing he was writing about.
Didn't he marry Jennifer Aniston?
I think that's why James likes him so much.
Anyway, back to what we were saying. It's a special episode. So if you're listening to us on iTunes, that's great. The sound's going to be a little odd because right next to us was a huge party. And we were at a huge party. And we were all having a good time. That's really all I'm going to say.
James was blottoed.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Which is how he ended up with his head in the vanilla ice cream, which is why he's no longer with us.
Actually, I think that's how he ended up with his head up his ass. But nevertheless.
I think it was Superman ice cream, actually.
Ooh, Superman. You know, it all tastes like vanilla.
Yes. There's no argument there.
There's no argument there.
And all color Fruit Loops taste exactly the same.
That's true. So you're probably in a hurry to watch Kane Hodder or listen to Kane Hodder. So we're going to get off here and listen to Kane Hodder, I guess.
Yes. Enjoy.
Without James because he sucks.
My name's Joe Lewis. You're supposed to applaud for that shit. Come on. Over to the right of me is James Thomas. We represent Bonehead. Anybody listen to Bonehead? Two assholes out there. Two assholes that listen to Bonehead. You guys suck. And then we got a bunch of people over here drinking. Welcome to the stage, Kane Hodder. What's up, brother?
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm fine.
What's it like having a documentary made about you?
Flattering, I guess. I mean, I've had an interesting life, and it's
Really, what do you do?
it's not
Are you in construction?
destruction. Yes, I am in destruction.
That's cool. Who are you waving at?
Those are all my.
Is it RA? Yeah, yeah. We have like 2 fans in the back, that's about it. Woo! Yeah, drunk ladies. Yeah, we're going to do the podcast really quick. So let's go ahead and ask you a few questions. How did this all get started?
Let's sit down.
All right, sit down.
Nothing wrong with sitting, is there?
I look fatter.
Yeah.
So how did it get started?
How they get started?
Well, no, for the movie, because we're here for it to hell and back. It's not everybody that gets a documentary made about it.
No, I mean, Derek approached me, and the book had come out shortly before he decided he thought they should do a visual version of the book, basically. Because my life hasn't always been easy and fun and all that, and a lot of people respond to that. So.
You and Hal Needham, are you the only 2 stunt actual people who wrote a book?
That's a good question. Actually, nobody.
I know, I'm amazing.
Nobody has ever asked me that. Hal Needham, yeah, he used to brag about how many bones he broke, and for me, that's kind of bragging about fucking up, if you ask me. I'm just supposed to do stunts and not get hurt. I mean, really.
But then we're talking about the same guy that bragged about living in Burt Reynolds' guest house for 10 years too, right?
No, he's a good guy. I knew him, and he was a legend within the business for sure. So.
Right, yeah. His son does stunts as well, right? I think so. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
So one thing I have to say, and I know this is covered in the documentary and the book, one thing, I'm a father, so I automatically say you have done a lot with everything that you've suffered. You've done a lot of outreach to kids that also have challenges. I just wanted to say that out loud. Thank you for that. As a parent, I've never had to go through a lot of that, but you do amazing stuff with that. And I just wanted to ask, what really made you want to get into that side of it, of that outreach and things like that?
Kiss-ass question.
No, I'm the serious guy.
When you go through some difficult shit and people help you through it, you appreciate that. And you also, I hope, tend to want to help others that might be going through something either similar or totally different if they're going through something. It never hurts to talk to somebody that's been through some shit themselves. So I'm happy to do whatever I can for people. I had Derek, who directed my documentary. He's here.
Where's Derek at? Stand up, Derek. Derek, oh, there you are in the back.
We were in London for the very first showing of the documentary, and I had him ask me a few questions that have never been asked about my life and the documentary. And I didn't show him the questions until we were on the stage and he was doing the Q&A. And one of the questions was, do you wish the accident where I got burned, and you guys all know about that, I think, mostly, got burned and almost died. And that's kind of the whole to hell and back thing, is the recovery from being burned, because I didn't have proper treatment. You'll hear all about it, but I had him ask me, do you wish the accident never happened? And as horrific as it was and everything I had to go through, I'm not sure I wish it never happened, because it certainly made me a better, more compassionate person, no doubt. And so, if it took something like that to make me the person that I am, then I guess I don't really hate it.
So you think it gave you empathy?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had the next question. No, that's cool. What's the hardest story that you had to go back through when you're working on the documentary? What was the one, maybe other than the burns, that you either forgot or it was a little tougher than you thought it would be to tell it?
Well, Derek and Andrew, he's also the producer. He's here too. Andrew, where are you back?
Stand up, Andrew.
There he is. He's the producer of the documentary. We all went to the burn unit that I was in. Once I finally was transferred after 4 months to a burn unit, we went and visited, and I haven't been back there since. So it was pretty tough being back in the facility where I had so much pain and, you know, suffering and stuff, but they saved my life. So that's why we went back there, and you'll see it in the documentary.
Okay, I know who wants to see the movie? Does anybody want to listen to us and watch us for another hour and a half? All right, see that?
He doesn't.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about him. I got like 2 fans. No offense, I'm totally into beards, obviously. But this dude's flipping me off. All right, but before we do anything, I've got to ask you, somebody announced a new movie. Maybe something to do with some sort of instrument that you stab people with, or you can cut wood with, or maybe it starts with a, no, it's not a machete. What would that be? A hatchet, maybe?
Well, yes, we did a 4th Hatchet film. It's called Victor Crowley. We shot it last September, last year, and kept it secret until just like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And that was a tough thing to keep secret, but it's now touring, so keep an eye on that, because it's a fun romp with murderous violence and lots of blood. So
Sweet. So you had a lot of fun coming back to it. I know you love playing the character.
I really do. Victor Crowley is just about as much fun as playing Jason was. So for me, it's since I got replaced as Jason, they gave me a new character to do, and I have loved it. And I think, honestly, that the Hatchet films are overall better films than the Friday ones, because they're better written and the characters are more interesting in between the violence and stuff. So
Death scene with a belt sander, right? Absolutely, and I totally agree. So we're
our belts.
I am our belt sander. I'm so sorry, so sorry. Well, anyway, I'm excited for the new Hatchet movie. I just wanted to let you all know about that. Any other upcoming projects you want to talk about?
Well, you guys know I've been working on the Friday the 13th video game. We started working on that, doing motion capture, last January of 2016 is when we started. And we just did another session last week. So they are consistently upgrading the game and adding things to it. And the company that developed and came up with the game is right here in Lexington, so that's pretty cool. And a couple of the guys from the gun media are here somewhere. Where are you guys?
Stand up.
Yeah. They're the guys that have been doing the video game. And, yeah, it's a lot of fun because I feel like I'm back as the character.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. So you guys want to go ahead and watch the movie? You want to get excited? All right, Kingsman, are you going to stay afterwards to answer any questions? You want to hang out and watch it?
I'm not sure. It's not easy for me to watch the whole thing, so I'm not sure what I'll do.
I know you guys are excited about the movie. We're going to listen to one more song. Let's give it up for Kane Hodder!
I sure did enjoy that. What about you?
Oh, I loved it. I weeped. And I
Weeped?
don't. Yes, I weeped.
Not wept?
No, I weeped.
What the hell is weeped?
It's where you take a broom and you do this thing. Isn't that weeping?
I have no idea what planet you're from right now. No.
It's because I took my sunglasses off and now I'd have regular glasses on.
And you can't figure out why James walks around at night with sunglasses
No.
on. Other than he's a weirdo.
That poor dead
or
soul.
was a weirdo.
Yeah, he was a weirdo. He's
James
dead.
Thomas, never forget.
Dead as a doornail.
Not
The
to tell me.
doors don't have nails. They have screws.
Speaking of screws, let's talk about your sister. Let's go ahead and introduce the producer and the director of To Hell and Back. The director,
Derek Dennis Herbert and Andrew Barcelo.
Derek Dennis Herbert directed it. Andrew Barcelo produced it.
Yes.
And we were able to sit down with them for about 30 minutes and talk to them about the process, how it all came about.
It was a really interesting interview.
We hope.
Because I was there, so you'll notice I wasn't there for the first part. I was there for the second part.
Because you finally gave up on your children.
Yes, and I knew James's time was short, so I rushed home to be with him.
Yes. It's amazing how one can die of ass disease that quick. But he found a way.
We told him.
He contracted it, and 48 hours later...
We told him 4 tubes of Preparation H a day is not healthy, but he just wouldn't listen.
The ass disease? It knows no love. Oh, damn you, ass disease. Why? Anyway, here's the producer and director of To Hell and Back.
Enjoy.
All right, welcome to Bonehead. I'm Joe Lewis, as usual.
James Thomas?
I'm Disney drunk.
And with us, we have 2 special guests. We have Andrew Porcello and Derek Dennis Herbert. Say hi, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So what's great about this is that we actually have the producer and director of Kane Hodder's new documentary about him, To Hell and Back. So, how in the hell did you end up doing To Hell and Back?
Well, I had read Kane's book that he co-wrote with Mike Aloisi called Unmasked, and thought it was a great story and one that deserved to be told. I was looking for a horror story to tell. I wanted to make a documentary on somebody, preferably in this industry, because I think a lot of people are very misunderstood in this world. People think they're these horrible people, but in fact, they're some of the nicest people.
Some of the people who play the heavies tend to be, just like Bruce Campbell said in your documentary, the people who play heroes turn out to be sometimes assholes, and the ones who've just killed 30 people are the sweetest guys. A lot of times vegetarians and vegans.
Yeah, so I did this. I listened to some video clips and audio clips of Kane talking as well, and knew he could tell a story. He wasn't just good with written word, he could actually speak. And so I brought the book to Andrew, and then
So Derek brought me this book and said, you really got to read this, and I read it, and I found it fascinating from a human interest element. You know, I've always been a fan of stuntmen. I worked for WWE for a period of time, so professional wrestlers, all of that was always interested in me. And Jackie Chan is like one of my idols, and because of the stuff he's gone through. And so I read this book and I was like, this is incredible. And I'm an entertainment attorney, so I know kind of the logistics of how to make a film, how to make it happen. So I came on as a producer and I said, let's do this. So we approached Kane and kind of brought it to him, and then the rest now is airing for everyone to see.
Well, I'm kind of curious, how did you all know one another? Because the Boneheads have a long story.
So Derek and I went to the same high school together, but we didn't go at the same time back in Connecticut. Yeah. And so when he moved out to Los Angeles, a mutual friend said, oh, the 2 of you should meet up. And we became friends very quickly. So that's kind of how we knew each other.
Okay, so that's great. So you guys can chime in any time on this whenever you're ready. But you had the European, I'm sorry, it's the third day.
It's your world premiere.
I hope you have your,
This is, by the way, this is us, we'll start.
And I really hope you have your diaper on if you're European.
Yeah,
Thank you.
But anyway, so tell us about the premiere you had in Europe.
it was great. We premiered at the Fright Fest in London, that's sponsored by Horror Channel, and it was a great event, and we were able to get up there and premiere at the same time as Victor Crowley.
Oh, really?
The new Hatchet film premiered, literally had its European premiere about, what was it, like 4 hours after our movie, I think?
Yep.
We had that. So we not only, which I thought was very fitting, we didn't necessarily plan it this way, they might have, and I hope they did, because I think what they got is Kane's past and present in the documentary.
Yeah.
And you hear him being willing and able and still obviously tough as nails and ready to keep working, and then bang, the people there got to see the new movie that no one knew about until a couple days before, right at the same one. Like, we had heard about it, but we didn't even know it was going to come out there.
It was very hard to, because everyone said, oh, are you excited to be premiering here? And leading up to it, and I wanted to say, well, of course, because we get to premiere next to Victor Crowley, but it hadn't been announced yet, so we kind of had to keep quiet about
So
that. So it's really difficult to be like, oh, of course, because Kane has a long history here, and Adam Green is a big part of the documentary, and he has a long history here. Meanwhile, we're thinking,
and we did say,
Victor
like,
Crowley.
the 10th anniversary of Hatchet, because that's how they kind of framed it, is screening. So it'll be kind of nice for the fans to get to see that too. But yeah,
I just don't, go ahead, Chad.
No, you go first, and then I'll.
Well, I don't know how you do a movie that high profile. Same thing with Blair Witch last year, and keep it under wraps like that. Specifically when you can't even do, because the Boneheads moderate, we're at Scarefest right now for anyone who's either listening or watching. We're at Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky. Should have said that to begin with. We do these panels and just a little bit of nugget of something will come out, and if there's 30 people in there, it's on social media, it is making news and within the hour. So I have no idea how you keep that under wraps.
I think they just kept. I think they took it very seriously.
Right.
It's
They have
a
respect
small,
for-
independent, company.
Uh-huh.
Everyone loves Adam. Everyone loves Kane. All the actors, obviously, were like, okay, we'll keep it quiet.
But for the crew to do that is incredible.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
'cause
So
that's-
many people are associated.
The only person I know who's able to do something like that on this scale is J.J. Abrams, because Star Trek, Star Wars, nobody knew what was going on. It was all hush hush. But something like this, to keep it that tight-lipped.
Especially when horror fans are rabid.
Yes.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course,
you're
of
going
course.
to.
Well, that's why he didn't give any kind of
Yeah.
indication that he would ever do it again. In fact, he did an interview about 3 weeks or so before it premiered saying that he doesn't think he'll ever do another
Right.
Hatchet film. I remember listening to that and I was like, you son of a bitch. You're going to find out in 3 weeks. But it's perfect. It's how it's you have to do that. It's
Yeah,
like,
and I think people understood how important it was to keep it
Yeah.
secret.
Yes,
absolutely.
And so they just respected it, I mean, there's the thing is, you can obviously have people sign non-disclosures and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to, do you trust the people you're talking to,
Yeah.
and do they understand how important it is to you? And I think people got that.
Yeah, it's just incredible to me. Just like you were talking about, how do you just keep the crew? How did you keep the key grip from just mentioning it to his mother, who mentioned it to someone else? I don't know. That's fascinating to me. How much do you think Victor Crowley, from what I can gather from when we were talking to Kane the other night, I think he's almost more passionate about it than he was Jason.
I think,
Does that make sense?
yeah, I think that look, Jason propelled him forward and allowed him to start to do something, but Victor was something that he got to take on from the beginning, and he's the only Victor Crowley, right? That's it.
Right.
That's his character. So, I don't really know if he can compare the two, but I know that there's a real special place in his heart for Victor, because that's it's like his baby.
Yeah.
This monstrous killer baby.
on the flip side, I feel he feels very much he feels very passionate about Jason too, and if it was up to him, like he says, he never would have stopped playing it.
Absolutely.
And so he kind of, he's done some interviews where he's mentioned how he feels about some of the other Jasons that came later, because he just feels like they just didn't respect the character the way he did. He doesn't even care about their own, he agrees it was theirs to take it the way they wanted to. He just doesn't think they respected it as much as he did. And I'm not saying that, he doesn't know that they didn't. And he, never says anything bad about the people portraying the character. Just, he didn't know if, he was Jason. He wasn't sure they were just not just playing a character.
I also maintain that he's playing Jason again, because
I think so.
he did the video game, and that has been incredible. So,
Yeah.
and by the way, because he did the mocap for the video game, he's technically played every Jason, because, they've got Baghead Jason, which he didn't play, but now he has, and all of that. So technically,
And they're adding new footage. 10 days ago, he was suited up
absolutely.
again.
And a few months before that, he did even more.
So that game's
he's been
going to
doing
keep.
a lot of stuff.
I mean, it's been wildly successful.
Yeah, it was
And the-
27, 72. Could be a very good number. New kills added 10 days ago.
And FYI, the company responsible for it is in
Lexington,
Kentucky. Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great guys.
I want to circle back to the documentary really quick, because horror fans and things like that. But to be honest, I posted this on Twitter, and I will say it on our show as well. Kane's story is not just for horror fans. It is truly just a fascinating story. And if you're a fan of any genre of movie, he's in it somewhere. He's in Star Trek. I'm a big Star Trek nerd. He's in it.
You didn't have to put Star Trek in front of that.
Yeah, you didn't.
I'm a huge nerd.
You
Thank
got
you.
out of everything to start with.
Figuratively and literally.
I mean,
Yeah.
he did stunt work on Seven. He coordinates stunts everywhere. So there's just something about that when I was watching, this isn't a horror documentary. This is a documentary about a human experience and somebody that has entertained people across genres. So watching that, I was just, it's just a fascinating story. And I thank you all for bringing that to the visual way.
So what was, as you went through that, knowing Kane's past, and if anybody doesn't know anything about Kane,
Pick up his book.
pick up the book, see the movie, do both, because there is something
Yes.
about being visual.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's in the book, the little details and things that when you're getting it from someone's first person perspective, it's different, and it's very different when you see it being told as well. But I'm glad that you had that reaction to it, because we went into it thinking there's a huge human interest element to this that any non-horror fan will enjoy, but then there's also the horror side, and so we did the best we could to make a balance.
Yeah, it was a constant juggle between keeping every 10 minutes or so, you have to keep both sides happy. So that's why we kind of jumped timelines a little bit. We originally edited chronologically, but then beginning was just sad, and the end wasn't sad at all. So it was like the whole beginning would have been a human interest field day.
You
Yeah.
need
The
to
bullying, the burn,
You need
everything.
this.
You need to have a constant roller coaster on both sides.
Yeah, we wanted it
So
to be
one
a
person,
story.
you get rise up at the beginning with the montage, and then down with the bullying, and then up with the Jason, and then down with the burn, and then up with his recovery, and then down with. It constantly has to do that, and I think, based on the reactions, we've achieved that. I hope people love it.
You know, going back to the Bruce Campbell side of things as well about that, what I loved the first time I met Kane was the first Scarefest, and so he's long been involved with Scarefest.
Yes,
Thank
yeah.
you,
For 10
Kane,
years,
for that.
for 10
Yeah, 10
years.
years.
And it's just meeting him for the first time. He is such a great guy, but he is also so intimidating. So when I saw that part about bullying, and this may shock people, I was amazingly popular in school. I was a nerd.
Are you amazingly popular now?
Shut up. But I think the other side of that is you hear that and you're just like,
How?
how? And then the
Yeah.
other part about that is I think about all the kids and I think about what he's done for kids that are in treatment for burns. I'm a father and I automatically just go, man, I can show this as they get older to my kids and say, this is a man that was bullied. This is a man that went through literally the closest you can get to burning in hell in real life.
Yeah.
And look at what he's done. So it's something about that story, and to know I've seen that guy.
Yeah, we have some kids in there right now, actually, at the screening that's going on here at Scarefest, the reprise screening. And I was shocked when their parents said, like, one of them was like a 5-year-old, it's like, we're taking our kids to this. It's like, well, if the kid can differentiate between what's real and what's fake in movies, there's a lot of message here that has been getting through. We've heard from people whose marriages were saved because they were finally able to talk about what he had gone through with his burns to his wife, so that they were kind of on rocky ground. And now, by watching it, he was able to express things to her that ended up saving and kindling things that they thought they had lost. And from people about bullying, that people who have been who were even suicidal, like probably moments before the screening, and then watched the movie and heard the ending where he talks about holding on and look what you might miss, and was like, I can't do this. So to have a reaction like that is always it's the best part of this film for me.
It's just about survival, right?
Yeah.
Surviving the worst.
Absolutely.
No matter how hard you get knocked, getting back up again. I want to talk about you two for a second. Where did your interest come from this? Now, we talked about how you met, but at what day how did you go from being a documentary filmmaker and being a storyteller to where did your interest lie when you were younger? How did you get into it?
Well, I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 3.5. Literally, ever since. I've never wavered on what I've wanted to do, ever. I've wanted to do it ever since I saw Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Are you serious?
Very inspirational film when you think about it.
That was the first movie that
With Trump.
That was the
Yeah,
first.
I know.
True.
That's
And
really
Tim Curry.
And Tim Curry.
Right. Well, I mean, you got to talk about those
That was
go, Rob?
the listen.
True.
That was the first. That was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. I love the first one, so my dad took me to see it right after my sister was born. It's sort of like father-son bonding thing, so that I didn't feel like I was being replaced.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it and told him I want to do that. He's like, "What do you mean, like act?" And I was like, "Maybe, but I want to make movies." And ever since then, I've wanted to do this. So that, I mean, as far as horror goes, I've been a huge fan for years. I love this stuff. Like, I was just saying to him, like, even if we're not involved with the convention, I like to go to conventions.
Well, we do too.
I like to go to conventions. I like to call up Kane whenever he's somewhere I'm near and be like, "Listen, I need a pass. I'm coming. I'm just gonna hang out at the convention, just chill with you for a little bit." And like now to be friends with Kane and friends with like Felissa Rose and stuff, it's kind of surreal to be able to turn your passion into something you're now a colleague of theirs. You're not just a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started, I mean, and it's a weird way this kind of happened. I was in a band in high school, started to record the band, and this is a really weird thing, but as I built a studio, started to record more people, I started to need to have contracts for that, and I started making them and writing them myself, and I was like, this is like, it's weird how much I'm enjoying this.
Yes.
And I started to look into law, and I thought, well, law is kind of boring, like, you know, I don't want to go to court, I don't want to do that stuff, and through the years just met different lawyers and learned that entertainment law is the thing. And once I learned that, that was what I was going for. You know, went to law school, worked for WWE, and said, well, California, I got to go there. Moved there, and I've been having my practice there since. And being on the outside, watching people, you know, do these projects, all of that, you learn a lot from their mistakes. And finally, when this project got brought around, I said, you know, this is the time to kind of start actually producing it, and you know, hopefully it's the first of many.
It's funny how often you learn from mistakes than successes. Like, we've learned a lot from watching other people fumble around about, because I produced it as well, about producing, about directing. Like, once you see what people do wrong, it's really easy to do the opposite.
Well, you learn so much more from mistakes than you do success, because success just comes sometimes. And well, what was the difference? But when you screw up, you totally see
Oh,
it.
sure. There's a phrase in the startup world, they call it fail fast. You know, you need you can make mistakes, but don't keep repeating them. Just do it quickly. You know.
Right.
You mentioned hopefully the first of many projects. Do you have a dream project that that you would love to do?
Other than this one.
Right. Well, a dream project. Well, we've
Listen, the problem is I'm not going to say dream projects, because all of them are on our list of projects we actually want to do.
Okay.
I don't want to say it, because if we then approach the person, they'll know we want to do their movie. Gotcha. They might negotiate a little higher up.
Smart.
So-
However, we did announce at the Fright Fest, yeah, and that's at Fright Fest that we're doing, as of now, untitled documentary on Holliston and Adam Green, and like his quest, like sort of the Rocky of documentaries, his quest to bring this little show to fruition despite many obstacles, despite all these successes in his life. Other than that, this has been his passion for years to do this project, and yeah, so that's what probably our next project is going to be. We're also just produced.
Yeah, we're in post-production on a home invasion film that hopefully
I'm sorry, you went from that one to home invasion.
Yes,
Keep going.
it's the first jump into narrative, and
Okay.
you know, it's going to be a twisted film. I can't wait for people to see it.
What do you think are the big challenges between, I mean, because the Boneheads have made a lot of short films, but obviously you're doing it on another level than us. So what do you think the big challenges are between, because they're both narratives, you know what I mean, you're still trying to tell a story just like you're talking about the roller coaster, keeping people, what do you think are keeping people intrigued? What are the big differences between doing a documentary and just doing a straight narrative? What are the challenges for both, and what's easier for both?
Well,
does that make sense?
For narrative, you know the story going into it.
Right.
You know the script, everything is there. So pre-production is absolutely key. You know, being able to go in and know what's the shot going to be, how many people are going to need, all the logistics of that. And the actors, how do we get the right ones?
You need to find great actors to do it. You can't tell you how many movies have been, that I've even known people who have worked on, that everything was planned, yet the actors were terrible, and their movie was nothing. So to find good actors, I mean, a doc, the issues are sort of the opposite. It's like, it doesn't necessarily matter that everyone you interview is a good interviewer if you have the bulk of people that are good. Because you can always not use someone a lot.
Or cherry pick.
Cherry pick
You get
moments,
to cherry
exactly.
pick moments out. Right?
And in a lot of ways, the documentary, you go in knowing the general story, but then the story kind of also reveals itself, right?
Yeah.
Originally, we weren't planning to go to the burn unit. That presented itself as an option. We weren't planning to go to Hawaii originally to interview Kane. That presented itself. And then once you have this full arching story, you then have to sit down and say, what do we have coverage of, right? One of the difficulties with this documentary, probably the hardest part of this documentary, was talking about Kane's young childhood and past, because he doesn't really have pictures from that. He, as it reveals in the film, doesn't really talk with his family all that much. His parents have passed, and other than Steve, there's not many friends that he still talks to from back then that were really there during that time. So it's mostly just him talking. And how do you create a story? You can't just have Kane sitting there talking to the camera for 45 minutes. You have to put some stuff in there to do And I think we found a good way to kind of work around that.
Lots of interesting. That was our day of. We went out for 2 different days and did B-roll. One full day with Kane, and then a half day or a full day with just us to get other shots, because we needed coverage. We needed things to cut away. We needed moments to make the audience also reflect. Like, you can't just have him spew stuff and not give people a minute to think about what he said and reflect. And to have him reflecting, it was the perfect thing. And he got it pretty well.
Yeah.
And then he saw it and he was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's what we were doing.
That's what we were doing. Because at the beginning, he was a little more like,
why am I walking around?
I'll give you like a couple hours. Then we got out there and he was feeling it, so we got a lot more time at. And then all of a sudden he was like, and then I saw the new cut and I was like, boy, did that make a difference.
That's it.
Because it did. I mean, it made it left moments to breathe, not just story, but...
We actually, a fun little side note that I don't even think we've ever mentioned in any interview. So when we were cutting the film, we knew that there were going to be these moments of Kane walking around and stuff, and we were like, well, let's just find something. And we found this stock footage of a guy on a donkey, like riding around. So our temp footage was just this dude in a donkey with like a poncho and stuff. And so it was really weird when we were showing this to people. We're like, ignore this, like ignore the donkey part, this is gonna be, but it's sort of funny that.
It was like a 5-minute clip and it had lots of like sunset shots and lots of like other stuff, but we used that anytime it was like just Kane doing something, it was always that one shot of the guy who was sitting on a donkey and the camera went around.
Pretend it's the temp score, right?
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same thing, and we're like, the good thing about this is that usually people fall in love with the temp score, and then they don't want different music. With this, it's like, trust me, no one wants the temp video of the guy on the donkey, so it was a good choice.
The music's amazing. Well, that's James Horner, and it's from Aliens, and we can't use it.
We actually got very lucky. Our whole film was original score. It was done by a friend of mine. I grew up with him, but he does all the music for the new X-Files, the new 24, like he writes all of that music. Blue Bloods. So he does all the composing for that, and we got lucky that he wanted to do this project with us.
No, just from a personal standpoint.
Are you going to express something that maybe we shouldn't do online?
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll edit this later. Go ahead, Jed.
Oh my God.
I was at the end.
So, Kane, he is such a unique personality.
For sure.
I've had a few interactions with him myself, and I'd always walk away with the story. You know, the number one story. First time I ever met him. He was actually the first autograph I ever paid for to get.
Oh, nice.
It was actually my bachelor party, believe it or not.
Oh, that's kind of
my
nice.
friends who took me.
Yeah,
and I was with them, and they had paid for something previously that I'd gotten while we were there. And I was like, and then he was signing my poster, and I saw 20, and I was like, oh, I thought they laid it down, and apparently it was somebody else's 20, and Kane thought I was trying to rip him off.
This is a true story.
This is a true.
Keep going.
You know, he just like thought he gave me that look like he was going to strangle me, and then he just gave me a smile. And then the other story is I'm setting up for the big Friday the 13th panel we had. I had 19 table chairs up there. He came in before anybody else, threw every single chair off to the side into a big pile, and just stood up there by himself with his hands crossed. They waited for everybody to come in and go, where the hell am I supposed to sit? You know, with these kind of stories, is there anything?
This was just last year, by the way.
This was just last year.
And I was moderating the pen.
You know, with that type of personality, is there any kind of personal stories you will have of working with him?
Well, one of the things I'll say is Kane's personality at a convention is different than, let's say, his personality at home. We kind of show this a bit in the documentary. At home, he's a great husband, a great father, very quiet, just normal.
Loves his dog.
Yeah, loves his dog, his new dog. Yeah, and it's just one of those things that he's very different. But there are definitely times where on set, I'm very afraid of heights. So as you know, in the documentary, we go back to the balcony that he climbs over and pretends to think, and he knew I was afraid of heights. So he's like, just come over here, I got to show you something. I'm like, dude, I know what you're gonna do. Like, no, absolutely no. And he's much bigger than me, so he just comes over and he drags me over to the edge, and in my mind's eye, he's dangling me by my feet, and I go back and I look at the footage, just my head hanging over the edge, but literally just my head over the edge. I just was absolutely terrified, but it was all in good fun. And he knew that if I had a real problem with it, he would
I didn't want him to mess with me, but I didn't tell him that because I read the book. But Andrew said he's afraid you're going to mess with him or whatever. And so the first day, the only thing he's actually done to mess with me really is on the first day, and don't watch this game. The first day he banged
Don't worry,
on.
he's already cut off earlier going, who are these fat guys in the ball?
He banged on the door of the bathroom. We had the studio where we were shooting a lot of the shots where he's sitting there and banged in the bathroom door and just left. Went back into the sound.
But it scared the crap out of you at the time.
And I was like, I came out like, oh my God, Kane, stop it.
It was hysterical because, and I really wish Kane had been there for the fallout of that, because Derek was expecting when he came out of the bathroom for Kane to be there, and I'm standing to the left. So Derek comes out, and he looks to the left, and I'll never forget this. He turns to the right, a completely empty hallway, and he jumps backwards. There's nothing there because he thought Kane was going to be there, and I was dying. I was like, dude, he's not even here. He already went back inside. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
I mean, he's definitely a personality. We know these conventions. He's making jokes with us, and we've become close because it's been such a long, almost 2.5 years of making this thing. But we're excited for people to see it.
And very personal.
Yeah.
I mean, because like I said, you can't watch the documentary and not.
Like he shared things with us that there was one thing in particular that he said, "Hang on a second, guys," and left. Called his wife, told her the story, and then came back in and told it to us because he'd never told her.
Yeah.
But he wanted to make
He
sure he
heard it
told
first
his
one.
wife because he thought it was important. And
It's a very sweet moment.
Yeah.
And
It
there's,
is.
there's a moment when you all were filming where he's asked to turn the cameras off for a
Yeah.
moment,
Oh, yes,
right? I mean,
yes.
and then there's something about that as big a monster as he can play, there's something that just makes that moment that much more. You see him killing 14 teenagers, and then, I need a second.
Well, the teenagers had it coming.
Right.
I've worked with teenagers, and they do.
It's interesting also, and I think part of the reason that the film comes across so genuine is because he'd sit down and he'd say, "I'm going to tell this story one time. That's it." Like the Burn story. They only did that once. And make sure each camera's going. Is everything going good? Don't stop. We're just going to do it all the way through. And it, he tells the story as it is, and I think it worked so well because it wasn't rehearsed. It was just completely natural, and he went through the experience of it one time, and we didn't redo it.
I think the other side of that is, and I think what makes the documentary so interesting is, a lot of time you have, I've studied educational history, and they have house history where the university pays for it, so of course the university is a perfect institution. There's no, I think the really great documentaries, there's one about that author Harlan Ellison called Dreams with Sharp Teeth that shows kind of is that you show the complete human.
He always tries to work at Harlan Ellison.
I do, but
He hates the man so much.
no, I
hates
don't.
him.
Shut up.
Hates
him.
But no, I think
He
that's
thinks
the
Poe's a
thing.
hack.
I
I'm
think-
telling God.
I think the thing about the documentary
What did
is,
Poe do, Chad?
oh my God.
We're going to interrupt him. What did Poe do, Chad?
Banged his cousin, died in a ditch.
Sorry.
You're not a historian.
Those are factual, but I don't know if that's some of his life
I
necessarily.
keep changing it up. It's banged his cousin, died in a gutter, but I sometimes like to throw in ditch.
No, I think
It's always
the
bang.
Continue on with your question.
but I think the other
While I
side
sit
of
here
that
and
is, I think the documentary, what the documentary does well, it does give the complete human view, and I think those documentaries are so much better,
Right.
Because it's everything.
Did you have a question?
No, I was about to say, we're not time.
I know.
What is really important about? I mean, what was really important about that to you all to get the complete story?
Yeah, I mean, we told Kane from the beginning that we wanted to tell his story in his words and make it complete. So I think that I don't know, he didn't really have any hesitation with us. And one of the things I think that might have helped with that is something we told him from the beginning, which was if there's ever anything you want to have cut, you get to have the
Right.
final cut. So you can always, so he always was, Andrew and I would talk to him about it before, and we were always able to convince him to record it.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't want it, let us edit it in if we feel right. If you don't like it.
And the perfect example of this was in the documentary. You see Kane talking with a burn survivor in the burn unit when he's gowned up. He originally didn't want to shoot that because he's very humble about his charity work and his rehabilitation work with these people. He does it to help them, not to promote himself, right? So he was like, I don't really want that filmed. And I said, look, we're not going to show the guy, so you're not going to see him. Obviously, he's going to be able to keep his privacy. Let's just shoot it. We're going to put it in. If you don't like it, we take it out. No big deal. And he says, okay, fine. This is what we'll do. And ultimately, I think when he saw it, he was like, it was done in a way that he liked. It didn't, put him up on a pedestal while he's turning into someone else. It was just a very natural moment.
It's literally just showing a burn survivor talking to another burn survivor during this section about how if you have scars, the people who are going through it will listen to you more. And I think that just showing that simple moment, that's why Kane liked it. It wasn't like, and Kane also does all this charity stuff. Yeah. Look at him doing this, look at him doing that. He does this he does, but you'll never see a picture of him.
And on that note, how are we going to, I know you got to make a plane, so how do they get a hold of the documentary? Let's try to sell it.
Well, first thing, go kanehoddermovie.com, sign up for our mailing list. We'll keep you updated. We are actually, when we get back to LA, kind of finalizing our distribution deal, and we'll be able to announce actually what outlets it's going to be through. Okay. Part of the reason we haven't released it immediately was because we want this to go as wide as possible. Like you guys said, it's not just for the horror fans, it's for everyone. And we want to align with a distributor who understands that and helps us with that. So we're going to be announcing that soon. Okay.
Please see this documentary. I'm being honest. This is the best monster is a great man, and he really is. So please see this.
Absolutely. And we'll be at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival on the 14th and 15th of October. Yep. We're in LA at Screamfest on the 17th of October, and with seems like some more screenings that we'll be at soon for the end of the month in November.
Go out, check it out, follow them on Twitter. Anything else you guys going to want to sell? We're good?
Nope, that's it. All right, we're good. Just follow us on social media, and we always respond to people.
Absolutely. So. We'll be tweeting.
And what are your Twitter handles?
It's at Masterfully M is the company's Twitter account. Mine is Derek Z. Herbert. He doesn't use his.
You don't want to use mine.
On Instagram, we're Masterfully Macabre, and same with on Facebook, Masterfully Macabre Entertainment.
One of us is much better at Twitter than the other two. I'm trying to get there at Evil Joe.
I use Twitter to yell at Time Warner Cable. So if you go through my tweet history, it's literally just me yelling at Time Warner Cable.
We just got rid of Time Warner Cable. We could do a whole show on that. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Thank you so much. This has been Bonehead from Scarefest. Thank you guys. Great.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, we really hope you enjoyed that episode because we really enjoyed taping it and doing it.
It was amazing. We'd like to thank Kane Hodder, who did not have to give us that time. We'd like to thank Kim and Amber for making it happen. Right. I mean, Amber, if I could give you a hug. Kim, if I could smack your butt. Who else? Brandon Griffith, the owner of Scarefest, and his wife.
And just for giving us the privilege of doing this stuff.
And actually saying, dude, we're going to make it happen.
Yes.
He said it just that way. Dude, we're going to make it happen.
And then, last but not least, Ken Boggle.
And Layla, yeah.
Layla.
Ken Boggle. Haley's behind the camera. If you're watching or listening to us on iTunes, doing this little hand over her heart motion for Ken Boggle.
Which again means she's having a heart attack.
In which case we need to wrap this episode up because she's going to die.
Oh,
and we've already lost one.
Yeah, we've already lost James.
James to ass disease. Absolutely. We want to go ahead and thank Andrew Barcelo.
And Derek Dennis Herbert.
The producer and the director. They were great. It was wonderful. The weirdest thing that came out of that episode was
Home Alone 2.
Derek, seriously, how did you start making movies after watching Home Alone 2? I'll never figure it out. But no judgments.
Nope.
Except that we just judged him.
Yeah, but he made it. But look what he did. He made a sweet-ass documentary, and we're sitting here talking about the sweet-ass documentary.
Absolutely.
So good on you.
Good for you, Andrew, for making me, and Derek for making me look so stupid in my basement. All right, so thank you so much for this episode of Bonehead. I hope you enjoyed it. Toodles?
Toodles.
All right, we're out of here.
Rest in peace, James.
Haley, do you need a defibrillator?
Clear!
We will.
This is Bobble Walters, and this is 2020.
Anyway.
Get some Vaseline on that lens.